Hi, thanks for your interest in this subject. This is my second part of the three-part series, What do you want me to do about it? I did the second part, which is actually done before this, and after reviewing it, thought it was pretty far out there, and without proper context, a person would be led to believe that I was crazy and had no context. So I wanted to tell you who I was and how I got to the point where I will be saying the things that are coming up next. So who is General Bruce? How does he get to the point where he thinks he can come off and say all these things? And what gives him the highfalutin right to come out with some kind of a PX90 for peace and justice? I've always been the general. When I was playing Army as a kid, I was really fascinated with the military like most kids were. I was beat up a lot when I was a really young kid until the 4th grade, when I learned how to be okay with, the physical world. I played in the woods, and I was a good big brother, and so I knew how important it was to protect people, and I knew the fear of being a victim and the pain of being a victim and the pain of being a victim around people and not having any backup. So I took on that kind of hero role. I was really into Jesus. I still am. I was in choir, and I was in the Boy Scouts, and I had high ideals. My parents generally explained the reasons for their decisions. Parents would reward me for honesty. They would apologize if necessary, and obviously made us kids apologize if we had to. They made me think through things. If I came home with a impossible to believe story, they would help me think it through for myself and make me process it. And a lot of long talks instead of paddling. When I was growing up, I was pretty creative and pretty good art skills, and I was always praised for that. I was really smart, but bored with school, so I only did good on my SATs, or whatever they called them back then. The kids would take intelligence tests. There was quite a bit of arguing around the house, but we also had a lot of love and a lot of fun, a lot of joking, a lot of show tunes around the place, went camping. So I've got a lot of range in my emotions. I was sent to a public service health commune when I was 17. That was my last ditch effort to find my way before the Army. I had to get out of the house. My mother and I were disagreeing. My father was in and out of the hospital, and that was difficult. So I went up to Minnesota and fell in love with it. I was out in the woods for the life that I imagined I could only have after a military career and retire. So that was my goal, was to a military career, graduate or retire as a general, and move out to the country, out in the deep woods, and set up a homestead. Went up to Minnesota, learned about recycling, organic gardening, alternative energy, things that are fairly common now, but back in the late 70s they were radical and communist and marijuana laden, and people were just not into recycling or organic. I learned about community and the peace movement and peace philosophies and things like that. So I totally gave up on the Army by that point. Learned carpentry. Eventually ended up in Minneapolis going to mechanic school, because there's not as many mechanics out in the country. Well, that got rather involved, and I did some carpentry mechanic work, and then I hurt my arm one summer and spent a lot of time recuperating, and got intrigued by the idea of a peace army. So I picked up the banner and hung out and talked with people, and they called me General Alarm, and figured that a figurehead for the peace army would be a positive thing for the world and might make things better. So I took that on, and it was quite a bit of fun at first. There were some detractors, and it's been off and on, good and bad. I'm one of those people, I think, that's just got to be doing something. I actually came up with a concept for a disease called injustice sensitivity syndrome, for people who are so upset by the injustices of the world that they are sick in some physical manner or emotional, and their treatment is to do something to make the world better, called justice enrichment therapy. So anyway, that came on later. So I'm semi-homeless, working part-time here and there, and hit the road, and got involved with a Catholic movement for kids from broken homes, and I realized that I was sort of running from my torn up heart from the broken up family and missing the family. So I was going back and forth between Columbus and Minneapolis, and somewhat homeless, and trying to understand what homelessness was and the mystic road. And I ended up with schizophrenia, had a schizophrenic break, and it's pretty humbling. I wasn't sure about anything, not even recycling. I thought recycling was okay, and a couple months later I thought that the mental health system would be a really good place to start. It's a really rudimentary part of our society, and you know, the brain, it's all in your head, you know. And so I got that idea and took my medicine and got a steady job. A couple of years later I got COPD, and had even more time to think and come up with ways to mobilize society to activate the culture of activism, because there's so many people not contributing to the solution, and so many resources not being offered to the people. And with in a Republican sense, the government is just a framework, and all this is what we are to utilize to make the world better. When I first moved to Wolf Lake Refuge, I was like a bad kid activist. You know, we figured most people didn't like us because, you know, we were against the war, and we were against chemicals in our food, and we were against throwing things away, and so you're kind of ashamed in a sense, or angry. And then I became more of a elitist, you know, like I'm better than people, and angry at them still, you know. And now I see myself as a privileged person with responsibility to share this new perspective, because I think got to apply all we can, and you know, not get so overwhelmed by, you know, the media is gonna, you know, got so many people confused that there's no way we can get around it. You know, every individual's got to decide that things aren't right, and they need to do something different and think differently, and that's the beginning. That's the beginning. Saying that, hey, there is a chance, there is a difference, there's, you know, a possibility that different thoughts and different behaviors can, you know, multiply exponentially and make the world a better place. If you don't acknowledge there's a problem, you won't want to understand the problem. If you don't understand the problem, you can't solve the problem. And if you understand the problem, you have a chance to solve the problem, because you're not working on the wrong context. So, you know, I want to think outside the box, but appreciate the box, because I'm like so many other people. And that's the gist of this talk. I'm just like everybody else. I'm just a kid that was fascinated by the military and is a Christian to the max that really wants to make the world a better place. And I think that's about it. So, you know, if people are waiting until all hell breaks loose and then they think they're going to get active, that's completely wrong. To find out what's going on, we patiently need to bring this world around and make things better bit by bit, row by row. That's how they got bad. And with God, all things are possible. Peace out.